Hello, and welcome to Cheers. That's one woman's opinion. I am your host, Carolyn Mills. I feel like I shrunk in this chair. Hold on. Okay, that's better. Today we are looking at Cheers Season 3, Episode 16, Teacher's Pet. Before we do, how is everyone doing in the heat wave today? I know it's here in New York. I just found out it's 91 in Florida, but y'all are used to the heat. It's actually reached 93 here in New York, so it's actually hotter than it got in Florida, from what I understand. Um, I don't deal well with the heat. I was miserable when I was in Florida. I don't mind visiting, but living there, I was completely miserable. It was so hot all the time. My allergies never stop because nothing dies because you don't get regular winter. I don't like it. I like the people I met there. I loved my church. I went to First Baptist Mount Dora. Great church. Great people, but I don't like heat. So I'm inside in the AC. We pretty much go out just for doggy potty trips, and that's about it. Um, but it is what it is. Can't control the weather. As you know, Mark Twain said, a lot of people complain about the weather, but nobody ever does anything about it. Now, it is important to stay hydrated. So I'm drinking my Propel water, black cherry flavored, which has electrolytes in it. So I'm hydrated and getting my electrolytes. Free ad. They're not sponsoring me. I just really like their water. They should sponsor me. I love their water. So we got the random free ad out of the way and the weather discussion. Let's go ahead and talk about the episode. So as I said, we're doing Cheers Season 3, Episode 16, Teacher's Pet. This episode first aired January 31st, 1985. It was directed by James Burrows, who, as you know, sadly passed away June 19th of this year from natural causes. He was 85. It was written by Tom Reeder. There was no guest cast, so I don't have any to read. Oh, also with James Burrows, I'm gonna start doing like I do with the cast members who passed away. I'm just gonna announce it at the beginning of the series, each season. I mean, if it's been if he if it's been a while between episodes that he directed, which there's usually not because he directed the majority of them, I will announce it again. But I'm not gonna announce it every week. In our summary, in the cold open, Cliff asks Carla not to make fun of his ears. He explains he's eligible for an ear tuck, and he's kind of sensitive about the subject. She tells him to do it, and she'll see. He also asks her to lay off the fact that he lives with his mom. However, he does tell her, I'm not the most tidy guy in the world. She agrees to stick to that, and then tells him, by the way, your mother called. She said you left your earmuffs in the driveway and no one can get out. Then she adds, that was a tidy tease, where everybody knows your name plays. Sam comes in with a brown paper bag with books in it. He goes into the office and locks the door. Diane is concerned that Sam is drinking again. She says seeing her and Fraser so happy together must be too much for Sam. Norm suggests maybe he's reading like he said. Diane decides to smell Sam's breath. She knocks on his office door. He opens it and she gets closer to sniff it. She could not be any more obvious as to what she was doing, although Sam probably didn't know, but it was kind of weird. Funny, but weird. Of course, that was obviously the point. He asks what she's doing, and she points toward the couch and says, What's that? Sam tells her it's just a book. Diane looks and realizes it's a textbook. He confesses he's back in school. Diane is impressed, but Sam says it's embarrassing because of his age. And I have to tell you, here Sam is going back to ow at my desk. Here Sam is going back to school for well, we'll find out in a little bit. I don't want to. Okay, I'm going to give it away. It's the same episode. He's going back for his high school diploma. And I have to tell you, he really shouldn't be embarrassed. And I want to put this out there for all y'all who are going to school at any age, at any level, high school, college. Um, Never feel embarrassed for getting an education. Um, I went to college and there was a man, he was his 80s or 90s. I want to say I think he was in his 90s getting his college diploma because he never went to college. He wanted to get it. 90s. You think, dude, you're probably retired by now. What do you need? Like, kind of, what do you need this for? Kind of like Carl asked Sam here. Why do you need a degree? You've got everything. Education is never a bad thing. Obviously, we need it for work and things like that. But just to be educated, I'm all for it. Never feel embarrassed at any age if you want to get your high school diploma. I don't know if you can still get that late. Used to be you could choose from because my mom and dad, when I was 7. Um, and they already had 7 other kids at that point. I was the eighth. They only had they didn't even have a high school diploma. My mom dropped out in 8th grade, and my dad dropped out 2 months before college, before high school graduation. Don't ask. I still don't understand to this day. But one of my brothers felt embarrassed. He's 7 years older than me, so he was in high school and I was 7. He kind of felt maybe middle school. He's either just starting high school or at the end of middle school. Anyway, he said he felt embarrassed having to write down that his mother only completed the 8th grade. She actually had a couple months as a freshman, but that was the last completed grade. So mom and dad went to college with the plan to get their high school diploma. They didn't want a GED, they wanted the diploma because back then you could choose. So they went to college, to the community college, took the high school classes required, got their high school diploma. Then my mom got a year of college, but she got a blood clot, so she stopped. And my father finished, he got his associate's degree. They were, well, mom was 40 when I was born, dad was about 41. So they were approaching 50. They went back, got a high school diploma. It was great. I never had to tell anybody my parents dropped out because I can say my mom has a year of college, my dad has an associate's. But to me, it wasn't embarrassing anyway. I was 7 when it happened. But I don't think that's an embarrassing thing. People drop out. We get that. Stuff happens. It's life. But for them, they felt good because they achieved this goal. Mom was not into school when she was younger. She didn't like being forced to learn things she didn't care about. She started watching the History Channel. My mom probably knew more about history than most of us that went to school just from watching the History Channel. And she wasn't a reader. She never was a big on reading. She read the occasional book, but she did school. She got it. 47 years old. Yeah, that's because I was 7. So 47, 48 years old. Never be ashamed to get an education. And there's my public service announcement for the day. Let's continue. Diane encourages him to tell the others. I'm so mad. Notice there's nothing on the back sheet here. I forgot to do the double print to both sides thing. She then stops him to find out if his return to school is part of a scheme to win her back, and Sam informs her that it's not. These two, they're always worried about the other one trying to get the other one back. They go back into the bar, and Diane announces that Sam has returned to school to get his degree. They applaud him. Diane thinks he's returning to get his bachelor's degree, but Sam explains he's finishing high school. He was a senior when he got a contract to play Class A ball. And for those of you who are not familiar with baseball, the system changed from what I understand, and now it just confuses me. But Class A was the first rung in a professional baseball career. AAA is your minor leagues, but now I don't know. I don't think they have the A system. I don't. That part confuses me honestly. So all I know is there's major and minor, and then there's college, high school. There's little league, and of course T-ball. But as far as the A system, A, double A, triple A, I think they might have done away with that, if I remember correctly. However, spring training started in February and school didn't end until to June. Carla asks him why he wants to go back to high school since he's so successful, and this was what I was talking about earlier. Sam says that he's embarrassed being a high school dropout. Again, just like I said, not to be embarrassed about going to school, don't be embarrassed about dropping out. I mean, I recommend not dropping out, obviously, but if it happens for whatever reason, like I said, life happens. If that happens, do not be embarrassed. You can get it later. Maybe you don't want to, I don't know. Um, we all have different needs. We need different education levels. You do what's best for you. But in any case, never feel embarrassed. Norm says that he shouldn't be ashamed of dropping out because many famous people have dropped out as well. And then he names Thomas Edison, Noel Coward, and Cher. Coach is surprised to learn that Cher dropped out. He decides he's going back as well. Diane encourages him, but Sam is concerned Coach is going to get in the way. Sam tells Coach that he's taking geography, the last class he needs for his diploma. Coach tells him he will start there and adds that he is good at geography. We never had a geography class in high school. We did geography, but it was part of our social studies curriculum. We didn't have a special geography class. Cliff comes in the next evening. He announces that tomorrow he is having an ear tuck surgery done. Carla tells him to just put chewing gum behind his ears. Cliff says that doesn't work. He then quickly modifies it. That probably won't work. I actually looked this up. I was like, did people really put chewing gum behind their ears? Apparently, they put chewing gum behind their ears to try to tuck them in. Seems kind of unsanitary since the only way to make gum sticky is to chew it first. And kind of weird. Not to mention if it gets in your hair. Probably why it didn't work. Sam and Coach come in humming Pomp and Circumstance. And if you're not familiar with that title, it's the graduation song that y'all probably familiar with. Coach explains they just had a test and they both aced it. Coach asks Sam to study with him for their final exam because it's 80% of their final grade. Sam tells him that studying is for saps. Diane asks him what the test was on, but Sam has no idea. This line actually made me laugh because I recently had a student tell me, "Oh, I did the homework, it just didn't get sent." I do tutoring. And I said, "Oh, well, resend it." They said, "What was the homework assignment?" I'm like, how could you do the homework assignment? Sorry, how can you do the homework when you don't know what the homework is? So I kind of laughed when he didn't know the test was on. She at she questions how he got an A and doesn't even know what he was tested on. Sam explains, "After a test, I like to empty out my head." He then goes to his office. Coach tells Diane that Sam sleeps during class and never takes notes. Yes, yet he always gets good grades. He says that Sam is Miss Purdy's favorite. Kind of laughed that her name is Miss Purdy because Sam was interested in her because she's Purdy. Kind of funny name there. Diane questions this, and Coach explains Sam is the only one I ever saw her kiss. Diane now understands how Sam is acing this class. She's angry. She storms into the office and yells at Sam. Sam confesses the same thing simultaneously. He admits he knows what he's doing is wrong, and he explains he started dating her because she was cute and we hit it off. He first says he didn't realize he was getting better grades because of it, but then he got a quiz back and it said close enough A plus. Diane starts to tell him he has to, but Sam, get tangled up in my wire here. Okay, sorry, wire tangle. I lost my place. Okay, so Diane starts to tell him he has to, but Sam finished it. Call Miss Purdy and tell her I want an honest grade. Diane then tells him to stand up straight or stop slouching, something like that. Because she's frustrated that she can't tell him off because he already knows. However, Sam says he cannot do that because he needs to pass the test. Diane says Coach will help him. He reluctantly calls Miss Purdy. He asks if his grade is affected by the relationship. He lets her know he wants an honest grade, and she laughs. Sam tells her when she sees the results of the test, You're going to be laughing out the other side of your hemisphere. Great line, especially, obviously geography related. They leave the office and Sam looks for Coach to help studying. Norm and Cliff offer to help, but Sam insults him, saying, "You know squat about geometry. Geography. Sorry, I did write that wrong. Geography." He asks Coach for help. Coach says he thought Sam didn't need to study. Diane informs Coach how Sam was getting his good grades. He begs Coach to help him pass the test. Angry, Coach refuses and tells him to find himself another sap, then walks out of the bar. This was justifiable anger, I would say. I mentioned earlier, in some other episodes, that this season Coach seems to be angry more often, and he's kind of snide and snarly, especially to Cliff, which seemed out of character. But here, this does actually seem to fit the character. Understandable that he would be upset. Sam asks Carla, and then Cliff and Norm. Good line. He says to Carla, "Do you know anything about geography?" And Carla says, "I know what creek you're up." Cliff and Norm act dumb because of Sam's previous insult. He then asks Diane for help. However, she cannot, as she and Fraser have tickets for experimental theater, which um I had forgotten about the experimental theater ticket scene when I was watching this, and I actually thought when they were in the office and he says he can't because he has to pass the test, I thought, why didn't Diane offer to help? She loves showing off her knowledge. And then I was like, oh, that's why. Sam feels defeated. Coach returns and says he will help. He tells Sam that Sam is always getting into trouble and Coach always bails him out, and he's sick of it. It's good to see Coach kind of stand up and say, "Hey, you know what? I don't like this," because he's like, let's face it, it's kind of easy to walk over Coach. He's not one of those type of guys, so it's nice to see him saying, "No, this is not cool." Coach explains you can learn anything if you put it to music. Again, I have to agree with this. Ironic because I can't hear, but I love music. So I've explained this before with the hearing. I'm not 100% fully deaf, but I don't hear voices. I don't even hear my own voice. I don't hear most sounds. I still hear music if it's loud enough. But I also remember, which I tend to like the older music, 90s, 80s, 70s, older music, because I remember the music. So it also helps so I know how it sounds. So I actually remember how this sounds. He then sings Albania, Albania, you border on the Adriatic. Um, and as I said, I remember this from what I could hear watching it. In fact, I remember the whole song. If you'd like to hear the whole song, the next part is you're mostly mountainous and your chief export is chrome. I remember it. I could show you that I only have it up written up to you border on the Adriatic, and that's the part I really knew. Sam looks lost. Coach tells him, "Sing it with me." So again they sing Albania, Albania, and Sam's like switching it on his head, almost like he's trying to get osmosis. This may actually be my favorite scene in the show. It's probably why I like it so much. The next day, I mean, not in the show, in this episode. The next day, Norm asks Cliff about his ear, and Cliff explains, "I decided this is the way God made me. Who am I to question his judgment?" Norm asks, "You were wrong about the insurance covering it," and Cliff confirms. I find it hard to believe that he did not know until the day he was going into surgery that his insurance didn't cover it. I'm having surgery next week. I'll explain that later. You can see arms. Sure. Oh, there we go. No. But you can see I'm having double carpal tunnel surgery on Thursday. I couldn't even get the appointment for the surgery until the insurance was approved. They had to go through. I mean, I went a couple months ago, and I was waiting and waiting because they had to get it approved. So how do you just walk in the day of surgery and not know your insurance doesn't cover something? I mean, that was the 80s. Maybe it's different back then. Again, I don't know. I was not even five yet when this episode aired because I turned five in February of 1985. Sam and Coach come back in. Coach is singing, High one on the sea, the China Sea. He tells everyone that he got an A on the test and the best grade in the class. Diane asks Sam how he did. Sam says he got a D. But Coach announces that Sam is now a high school graduate. Sam is discouraged and says he feels dumber than ever. Diane tells him he only had one night to study, but he says it doesn't matter because he's not smart like Diane. Diane says that some are better students than others, but Sam has street smarts. She tells him just because you don't know Pierre is the capital of North Dakota, Sam cuts her off and says, it's Bismarck. Diane says, right, Pierre is North Dakota. Oops, I would say South Dakota. I wrote it wrong. Pierre, South Dakota. Sam cannot believe Diane just got that wrong. He tells the others and everyone laughs. Sam now feels better and asks Diane the capital of Oregon. Diane says Portland. Sam tells her it's Eugene. She says, I knew that. They laugh as he tells her the capital of Oregon is Salem. Diane observes, if ignorance is bliss, this is Eden. So I gave this episode 5 out of 5 beer nuts. This was an awesome episode. And as you see, I love the song Albania, which now lives rent free in my head. The ending where Sam knows the state capital is better than Diane is classic. The B part, however, was rather dumb. I liked the cold opening, but I don't think it should have run through the show that much. And you can tell how much I like this show because despite not caring for that B plot with Cliff in his ears, I still gave this episode 5 out of 5 beer nuts just because of the A plot being so good. Our MVP is Nicholas Colasanto. Um, he he was amazing in this episode. His singing all the time, and I really enjoyed that character's part. Best dressed, also no, we're on this side. I gave to Ernie Coach Pantuso. I really love this coat. I think I've given it to him before when he's had this on. You got the cool polka dot tie going on there, which by the way, the tie's crooked. But I really like that. This is, by the way, this is a scene right after he they did the test. You can see the whole caption on the bottom, Taiwan. Our Grand Slam line is between Diane and Coach. Coach says, yeah, I saw them smooching near the parking lot. I was putting up a notice on the bulletin. With probing tongues? No, Diane, with a thumbtack in my thumb. Our on baseline. Sam, I promised my parents I would go back. Oh, sorry, between Sam and Diane. I promised my parents I would go back and finish. He then reacts to the way Diane looks upset. She was a lot happier about this in the other room. I have spent a year of my life being defiled by Dobie Gillis. Here's a little known fact. Sorry, I'm trying to do the background at the same time, and I can't multitask like that. Here's a little known fact regarding Norm's statement about the people who dropped out. Thomas Edison dropped out of school and was educated at home. Noel Coward quit school at 9 and was educated at home. Cher dropped out of high school when she was 16. She struggled with dyslexia, which was undiagnosed as a child. If you like this episode, I'm tangled again. Hey, wires and Velcro don't mix. If you like this episode, as always, like, comment, subscribe, all those things. And you can join the Facebook group. Cheers, that's one woman's opinion. You can follow us on Instagram at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast. Oh, lights on. It's hard to see. Let me put the other one back up in case you messed it. So Facebook was Cheers, that's one woman's opinion. Instagram is Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter X at One Woman Opinion. Again, no S because it wouldn't let me do it. You can follow us on Reddit, Cheers Rewatch Podcasts. And really, that's the least one I keep up with. And you can always send us comments, suggestions, questions, etc. at Cheers One Woman's Opinion Podcast at gmail.com. Next week, as I already mentioned, I'm having double carpal tunnel surgery. So there will be no episode next week as the surgery's right on Thursday. So in 2 weeks, which is July 16th, we will return and do Cheers Season 3, Episode 17. The Male Goes to Jail. And that's one woman's opinion.